You know what, guys? This is a really hard episode to make, and I've been trying to record this from a space of almost with like my podcast voice of this is what I'm going through and how I got here. This is the things that I want to share with you, and it's not working. It's not working to the point where I just shut my notes on the computer and I feel this big tension on my chest and my eyes are feeling watery and I have a lump on my throat. Because even though I know how important it is to still work on your dreams while the world is on fire, tackling it the way that I had it written on the podcast notes still feels very performative, and I don't think anything that I can put out there right now will not feel performative, but I want to honor myself and the fact that I said that I am coming back to this podcast, but B, that I was going to talk about this in a way. I want to honor that for myself. So that just happened. I had just sat down to record a podcast about how to build an aligned life while the world is on fire, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't go through the script and the things that I had planned to talk about because something fell off. And so in the middle of the recording, about 15 minutes in, I went full Britney. I closed the computer, said fuck it, and free wrapped it for the later half. And that is what you're about to hear right now. I wanted to leave the breaking point in and start with it because I think it is part of the lesson of understanding how we hold space for two things at once: the building a life that we want and the world being on fire. I wrote a blog post last week about this need to be able to hold both our dreams and goals and big picture thinking for the future and the rage and the uncertainty and the feeling of potential unsafety that we might feeling in times like this. And it is a hard thing to do. It is a hard thing to do, especially as a first generation person. It is a hard thing to do when you are an immigrant, when you are a person of the global majority, when you have lived through tales that started very much like this. And what I found, or what I'm working on, because I haven't found anything, I'm still kind of like marinating things in my mind around how to make space for both. But what I'm remembering, I like that word. What I'm remembering is that by us working towards a life that we want, in whatever shape or form we can work towards that in the current state of our psyches and the world, is a radical act of resistance, especially if your values are good, especially if you stand for love, caring, empathy. Those are the goals and the dreams and the visions of a world that are going to make the current version, or the current timeline, if you want to put it in like woo-woo terms, shift to a better one. So the best way that I have found to fuel the fire of both showing up and doing whatever we can with our levels of safety and discomfort to change this timeline and at the same time create or continue to build the things that we want for ourselves is the motivation of sarcasm. And I say this because when we talk about the process of manifesting and the law of attraction and all of these things, it seems that it's easier for a certain type of person to manifest things. And if you catch my drift, you're already catching my drift. And it's easier for that specific type of people because they believe that things are possible for them by default. So if you are born into privilege, money, a certain demographic and sociographic category, it might be easier for you to think that you can do anything. And we see that in our society right now. People that think that they can and they have done it, and how it might not necessarily be the best future or the best dreams and goals for the bigger collective. But if we find small ways to start working on believing we can work on our dreams, we have a chance at changing how things are done. And so that is what's giving me hope right now. That is what's keeping me fueling this double race of chasing my goals and letting the anger and all of the other freaking things activate me towards figuring out how I can do some shit. And it's a journey. I think it's a thing that is always in the process of being figured out. But as long as we can remember that by us remembering who we are, what we stand for, and what we want for our individual lives, we can start to create from a place where we have less tension with ourselves. Because if you are here and you resonate with the things that I'm saying, you probably are holding this like weird push pull resistance disgust feeling with why do I want to work on my things like that is so selfish when everything else is happening in the world. And so if you also have this freaking tension rod in the middle of these two things, the work, the figuring it out is trying to figure out how to make them not be opposites, and how by working on our goals and our dreams we can grab the times like this and bring them together to shift into something different. That is the message that my ring light has for you, because we are about to run out of light. And also, that is the message and the invitation I have for you today in this episode. Thank you for listening to what it feels like the worst word vomit I've ever done in this podcast. And I'll see you next time.